my friends, it's your old pal Jordan the Lion. How are you all doing today? I hope you all said great. Now, if you watched my last vlog, you saw that we were going to see all of the memorable and forgotten places of Hollywood Boulevard. Well, when I got out there, I realized that this is actually more than one vlog's worth. So today we're going to see the second side. We saw everything on the south side of Hollywood Boulevard. Today we're going to see everything and all the history on the north side. So let's go back and we're going to start roughly at Sycamore and Hollywood Boulevard. Daze with Jordan the Lion begins now.
So now we're going to make our way down the north side of the street. And when I moved here, I took this exact route, looking at these exact stars every single day going to school. Alright, I vlogged a little bit of this history in the Cheech and Chong Next Movie vlog, but this you can see, give you a little bit better view, was the Garden Court Apartments. On this site from 1919 to 1985 stood the Garden Court Apartments. The magnificent Italian Renaissance structure boasted oriental carpets and baby grand pianos in every suite. Also 2 lavish ballrooms, billiard rooms, tennis courts, and pool. Hollywood personalities who lived here included Louis B. Mayer, Max Sennett, Lillian Gish, Rudolph Valentino, John Barrymore, and Mae Murray. And like I said, it's in Cheech and Chong's Next Movie, so if you want to see what it looked like when it was still standing the way it does here, you can see it in that movie. And today it's a little shopping plaza with an LA Fitness in it. This building right here was one of my first jobs. It was a Tower Records outlet store. I met Glenn Danzig and RuPaul and Lamar from Revenge of the Nerds in there when I worked there. So here you can see on our next one it says C.C. Brown's Ice Cream. As the birthplace of Hot Fudge Sundae, C.C. Brown was a Hollywood landmark. It was located at this site from 1929 till 1996 and was popular with celebrities who dropped in after movie premieres at the Chinese Theater. Fans lined up outside for hours waiting for stars such as Joan Crawford to sign autographs. Among the customers said to have indulged in the legendary sundaes were Judy Garland, Jackie Cooper, Barbara Stanwyck, Bob Hope, and Jack Benny. And it too now is a shopping plaza. So as we pass by Madame Tussauds, the only thing we're going to see over here on this entire block is probably the Chinese Theater, because they've rebuilt everything except that, and they rebuilt everything around it. Oh, it looks like they've started to open things up around here. Now they have this store is usually like booming with tourists. Looks like they've set up a little shop over here, an outdoor shop. See what I mean? So here we have the Chinese Theater as it's seen today, behind barricades. Now here's the sign for the Chinese Theater. I'll zoom in so you can see back in its heyday a little bit. Let's see if we can't get in there for you. There we go. The most famous movie house in the world, built by Sid Grauman. Get a little bit better focus here. Actress Anna May Wong drove the first rivet in the steel girders when construction began in 1925. Opened with the premiere of Cecil B. DeMille's King of Kings, May 18, 1927. Its magnificent carved ceiling, muraled walls, plush carpeting, and ornate columns awed spectators. Douglas Fairbanks, Mary Pickford, Norma Talmadge were the first to place their hand and footprints in the forecourt. And even though they've redesigned the front quite a bit since I've lived here, that is the front of Chinese Theater. So now we're walking through Hollywood and Highland Shopping Plaza that also has the Kodak Theater, or the Dolby Theater I mean, which is where they have the Academy Awards now. There's nothing historic here except for that they have the Academy Awards here now. I think I said Kodak Theater because I think it used to be the Kodak Theater when they first built it. So this big tall building right here in front of us will be our next stop. It's been closed for a long time, and the only time I was ever in there, I was delivering food for a company I used to work for, and I met Hulk Hogan in there. So the story of Hollywood First National Bank is when constructed in 1927, this was the tallest office building in Los Angeles. The architects Meyer and Haller also designed the Chinese Theater. A fanciful combination of Gothic and Art Deco, the towering spire, buttresses, and motif of the explorers suggest the sense of fantasy present in Hollywood in that era. The beehive above the entrance signifies the hope that would be a beehive of activity. However, the 1929 stock market crash dashed those hopes and the bank closed. There you can see some of the explorers. You can see it says Science Copernicus, Enterprise Columbus. So next we have this little strip right here. It says this Spanish colonial revival building, similar to the famous Brown Derby, was designed by Carl Jules Weil and built in 1928. He was also the set designer for Casablanca and Yankee Doodle Dandy. The second floor housed the Embassy Club, a private club owned by Eddie Brandstatter that catered to film stars who wished to avoid the crowds next door at the Mont. The Snow White Cafe, which opened in 1946, has an original mural painted by Disney animators above the inside entrance, which is right here. However, it's closed for the pandemic. So we'll just go 2 buildings down to our next stop. So as mentioned in the last plaque, this one is the Montmartre Cafe. Hollywood's first nightclub opened on the 2nd floor in 1922. Its motto was, "Where everyone goes to see and be seen." Patrons included Buddy Rogers, Charlie Chaplin, Marion Davies, Rudolph Valentino, Fatty Arbuckle, Gloria Swanson, Winston Churchill, and Prince George of England. Bing Crosby, while performing here, met his first wife, Dixie Lee. Joan Crawford was discovered when she won the Charleston dance competition here. The Lee Strasberg Institute was housed here in the 1970s. Let's get a look at that. So that would have been right here, 2nd floor. Wow. Never knew that walking by here all this time. Now it's famous for the Museum of Selfies. So here's our next stop, as seen in Tarantino's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Musso and Frank Grill. Here it says Hollywood's oldest restaurant opened at this location in 1919. Columnist Hedda Hopper and Luella Parsons conducted interviews here, and Charlie Chaplin was also a frequent visitor. Writers such as Dash Hammett, Ernest Hemingway, Aldous Huxley, F. Scott Fitzgerald, and William Faulkner dined here for what was known as the Algonquin Round Table West. Among the many celebrities who are regulars here at the restaurant are Raymond Burr and Merv Griffin. Here we have the Bain Building. The most elegant Spanish Revival building in the historic district was built in 1926. It features a delicate wrought iron balcony, deeply inset bullseye windows, and a stylish tower. Of special note are the 2nd-story windows, which appear to be stationary, but which actually turn on a central pivot. The architect was Gogarty and Weil. Oh yeah, that's true. Take a look. You can see in the circular window that they've tilted it. So it is exactly as they describe right up here. Pretty amazing building. I think Adam the Woo said they recreated this at Walt Disney World. Here's James Dean. Okay, so this fancy looking courtyard. It's pretty cool history about it. You might recognize it from being the brothel massage parlor in Cheech and Chong's next movie. They come walking out of here. Let's read the sign and find out what the story is. Jane's House, built in 1903. This is the last remaining Victorian home on Hollywood Boulevard. It is typical of the mansions along the boulevard in the early 1900s, before the street became a bustling commercial district. From 1911 to 1926, the 3 Jane sisters operated the prestigious Miss Jane School here, attended by the children of such famous movie personalities as Douglas Fairbanks, Cecil B. DeMille, Thomas Ince, Jesse Lasky, Noah Beery, Jack Holt, and Charlie Chaplin. Let's just walk on in and take a look at the mansion. So I wandered my way through the courtyard. They said if you go back towards the parking lot around the side, you can see more of the house. The Jane's house. Everybody that I mentioned whose kids went here were like the who's who. Those were directing and studio heads. It's pretty cool. So our next stop is right next door, and I've done a whole vlog on a story here before. This is the Hillview. Here it says the Mediterranean-style Hillview Apartments, built in 1917, provided people working in the film industry with a much-needed place to live in Hollywood. Actors were considered unreliable. Let me zoom in a little bit for you. Considered unreliable tenants by many landlords at the time. Some area boarding houses had signs reading "No actors, no dogs." Actress Mae Bush of Laurel and Hardy fame resided here. The Hillview was built by movie mogul Jesse Lasky, who saw the housing needed and made the investment. So here's our next stop, the Pacific Theater. It's been closed for a couple of years now. Known as the Warner Pacific Theater. Zoom into that great photo. That's nice. Built by the Warner Brothers in 1928 to be the crown jewel of its West Coast theaters. Sam Warner oversaw construction, but died before it was completed. His ghost is said to haunt the building. The Italian Renaissance exterior design theme is continued inside. The two towers were originally used for radio broadcasting and displayed the call letters KFWB, which is said to have stood for Keep Filming Warner Brothers. Carol Burnett was an usherette here in the 1940s. And here's a shot of the Pacific Theater. And at one time it was my church. On Sundays my church would take over that place, so I've actually gotten to be inside, and they have those old theater style seats and everything. It's wonderful. There's Pacific Tower. Now what actually inspired this video was what once stood here. I was walking by here one day and saw the sign of what was once here, and I said, oh, that'd be a great vlog. Actually, everything on these signs would be a great vlog. If you peek through, you can see the Hollywood sign in the distance. So this is the house that once stood there. It was Paul Delongpre's home. This was the Hollywood's first tourist attraction. In 1901, renowned French painter of flowers, Paul Delongpre, built a palatial home and studio of Moorish inspiration with elegant gardens on a 3-acre site that stood until 1925. Tourism began with the balloon route excursions on the Los Angeles Pacific Railroad, started by Charles M. Pierce. At its peak, 18 carloads daily would stop at the Delongpre home, visit with the artist, and stroll through his studio to view his paintings and colorful gardens. Which is pretty much what we live for every day, is going off and exploring and meeting people like that and touring their properties when the world allows it. Our next stop is this giant building right here across from the Julian Medical Center that we saw earlier. It says this imposing Italian Renaissance revival structure with its Romanesque windows, arches, was built in the 1920s. It was a power center of the entertainment industry and still used by the industry today. Wyatt Earp, Charlie Chaplin, the Three Stooges, Lana Turner, W.C. Fields are said to have maintained accounts at the bank. Cecil B. DeMille got financing, and Howard Hughes kept his jewel collection here. Architects were John and Donald Parkinson. And that would have been the doorway to Howard Hughes' jewel collection, apparently. So our next stop is this giant building right here on the corner of Ivar and Hollywood. I have vlogged something here before. So you can see here it was called the Guaranty Building. This Beaux Arts office building was where famous entertainment columnist Hedda Hopper hung her hat. Built in 1923, it was one of several palaces of commerce along the boulevard and was the second building on the boulevard to meet the height limit for the city. Charlie Chaplin and Cecil B. DeMille were investors in the building. The architects were John C. Austin and Frederick Ashley. And that's what I vlogged here, Hedda Hopper's story. So the next plaque is actually right here, but it's actually on Ivar, and we vlogged this really early on in my vlogging, but since it's right next to this building, I want to include it. It's the Knickerbocker. So this historic hotel over here is where we're going to next. I've told quite a few of the stories about Houdini's wife having seance on the roof, to hear from Houdini for 10 years after his death. D.W. Griffith living here, William Frawley dying here, Marilyn Monroe supposedly spending nights here with Joe DiMaggio, Stan Laurel living here most of the time. He didn't like living in houses, he liked living in hotels, and this was one of his preferred ones. So let's go read the sign. Here you can see it says built as a luxury apartment house in 1925, Kima Hotel. Its Lido room was a popular hangout. Rudolph Valentino was often seen here dancing the tango. 1954, Marilyn Monroe would sneak through the kitchen to meet her future husband Joe DiMaggio at the famous watering hole. Elvis Presley, Red Skelton, D.W. Griffith, Betty Davis, and Cary Grant all lived here. Bess Houdini conducted a seance from the roof trying to communicate with her deceased husband Harry. Yeah, mentioned on that plaque was one of the main reasons that I even vlogged it in the first place, was because Elvis Presley had a really famous photo session here in his room and up on the roof and everything that I documented in my Knickerbocker Hotel vlog. Go watch it! Well, by looking up the street, we have seen everything up and down Hollywood Boulevard. Hope you guys enjoyed that. Now let's head home. Well, home for about 2 more days. I'm definitely not going to miss this kind of stuff.
People always want to see you. They're always curious as to what you're up to. That's what you're up to, isn't it? What a great dog. All right, my friends, I know you had to come back for a second day to see the rest of it, but I hope it was worth it to you. Pretty cool history in some of those buildings, right? That second floor where Joan Crawford got her start, that was pretty interesting. Thank you, Kim Kinsler, Larry Dado, and Glenn Brown for making contributions to my channel. Thank you all for watching. We'll see you all next time. Have a great night, and goodbye.